Good morning everyone. So in the earlier classes we discussed about various linear measurement devices. So today we are going to discuss about one more linear measuring instrument, that is dial indicator. So dial indicator can be used as a measuring device as well as a comparator also. So it depends upon the application of our usage. It can be used as a measuring device or a comparator. So now this dial indicator can be used for making as well as checking the linear measurements. So as we discussed that this can be used as a measuring device or as a comparator. So by means of this we can mark, it means we can mark a linear measurement or we can check, it means we are comparing the measurement with one more thing, that is checking. So we can use as a measurement devices as well as a comparator. So comparing to other devices, it means our dial indicator requires less skill than other measuring instruments like micrometer, vernier calipers, etc. So as we know that micrometer and vernier calipers are need some calculation. So that is, so in micrometer, if we consider a micrometer, it consists of two readings, that is main scale reading and thimble scale reading. So for getting the final value, we need to multiply our thimble scale with the least count and we need to sum up with the main scale reading. So then only we are going to get a final reading. So for calculating these things, it requires some skill, whereas for using for using dial indicator, it doesn't require high skill. So here in the dial gauge itself, it is showing the reading. So we can directly read the reading and we can use the readings. So compared to micrometers and vernier calipers, the taking of reading is very easy in these dial indicators. These are small indicating devices. So dial indicators are small indicating devices, contain small graduated dial scale. So here the scale consists of graduates. It means it's a complete scale. It means complete 360 degrees is divided into some sectors, that is some graduates. So some lines, graduates are marked on this scale. So these are the small indicating devices, contains small graduated dial scale. This depends on gaze as well as lever magnification system. So this dial indicator is used for identifying small deflections also. So those small deflections can be magnified by means of a lever mechanism or by means of gear and pinion mechanisms. So by means of these mechanisms, the linear movement can be magnified. So if the movement is 1 mm, so this 1 mm can be magnified and we can observe the readings. So magnification can be possible in this dial indicator. Those magnification can be done by means of a lever mechanism or by means of gear and pinion mechanisms. Next, dial indicators take the form of circular or semicircular or circular scales. So here, this is a circular type of dial indicator. So here the pointer can move over 360 degrees rotation. It can move complete 360 degrees. M number of revolutions can be take place in this circular type. So this one is called sector type of dial indicators. Here only a limited sector of readings can only be takes place in this process. So for example, our bike speedometer. So as we know that speedometer consists of 0 to 120. So roughly. So speed, kilometer per hour. So it is a sector readings. Only a sector division can be noted here. Whereas here in circular dial indicators, complete 360 division can be takes place. Here only a limited sector. Example, speedometers. So small changes of dimension. So if there is any variation in the dimension of the component in contact with the spindle are made to assume larger in the sense magnification, larger by means of mechanical amplification. So by means of mechanical amplification, so by means of either lever mechanism or by means of gear and pinion mechanism, by means of mechanical means, we are magnifying, we are enlarging the readings. So the reading is very small. So though the reading is very small, for easy observation, we are magnifying the readings. So we are not changing any reading, just simply we are magnifying. So here if the linear movement is 1, the same movement can be obtained in 1 centimeter also. But the reading is same. So it also reflects the same 1 mm reading. It also gives the 1 mm reading, but in 1 centimeter of division. So simply we are magnifying the readings. A dial indicator by itself is not of much use. So simply with a dial indicator we cannot do anything. So if it is only a dial indicator, it's not a good use. So unless it is properly mounted. So if the dial indicator is properly mounted, then only we can use it as a good comparator or good measuring instrument. So here these are the stands. We connected our dial indicator to the stands. Then only we can use our dial indicator in a good manner. So without these stands, with only a dial indicator, it's not a good use. It's not of much use. So if it is properly mounted, if it is aligned correctly, then only we can use the dial indicator as a good instrument. So for that purpose, we need some extra accessories like stands. So here we clamped our dial indicator to a stand. So by means of stand, we are comparing or measuring the components. So here is the table. If we place our block here, our component, then the reading can be obtained in this dial indicator. That reading can be read. So if we are not using any stands, then it is not of much use. With proper instruments, with proper holdings as well as accessories, then only our dial indicator having a good use. So uses of dial indicators. Dial indicators are used for determining errors in geometrical forms. Forms is none other than the shapes. So these are used for identifying geometrical shapes. It means identifying errors in the geometrical shapes. Example, ovality. So here by means of stand we connected our dial indicator. So here by means of two centers, if we hold a circular block between two centers and our dial indicator plunger or spindle will hold here. So if we rotate our component, it means this component, then the reading should be uniform. So that dial indicator should show uniform reading. If there is any variation, then the component is not circular. It is in ovality. So if it is like this, so from the center, if it is ovality from center, the distance, it means the radius is varying, so that the deflection will varies in the dial indicator. By means of deflection, the dial indicator, we can identify whether the component is circular or it is out of its circularity. It means ovality. If it is ovality or out of roundness or tapers can also be identified by means of this dial indicators. So here dial indicator. So if we place a component like this, so here it is having taper. So if we move the dial indicator, the deflection will varies. So if the dial indicator is at this point, it shows some deflection. If the pointer is moving, then it shows zero deflection. So as well as negative deflection. So if it is moving in a direction, so it can identify the taper also. So by means of this, we can identify ovality. It means out of roundness or tapers. So it is also used for determining positional errors of surfaces. Example, squareness, parallelism. So it is used for identifying squareness. So the perpendicularity can be identified by means of this dial indicator. And parallelism. So it can compare two surfaces and verify whether the two surfaces, the point at this location is same in this location or not. That can be identified by means of this dial indicator. Parallelism can be checked by means of this dial indicators. Next, taking accurate measures of deformation. So as we know that during elongation or compression, the material will deform. During deformation, the material can enlarge or can compress. So those enlargement as well as compression can be identified by means of dial indicator. So here by means of comparing, so earlier without any testing, the component can be tested. That can be taken as 0. After that, after a tensile testing, the component will enlarge. So at that condition, again we will check. So the difference between the initial and the final two components, the difference between two dimensions is our elongation. So those elongation or compression. So elongation is none other than extension. So extension or compression can be identified by means of these dial indicators. Next, comparing two heights of distance between narrow lines. So it can be used for comparing two heights also. Next, advantages of dial indicators. The instruments can be easily used and read even by an unskilled labor. So we already discussed that how the skill works here. So it can be easily read by an unskilled operator also. So compared to micrometer and vernier calipers, it requires some calculations. So here in this dial indicator, it doesn't require any calculations. So even an unskilled labor can also be easily read this dial indicator readings. So next, contact pressure is low and uniform. The contact pressure. So here below this stylus, we are going to place a component. The pressure is applying on the component. It does not create any scratches or deformation on the surface. Why? Because the contact pressure is low and the pressure is also uniform. So due to uniform pressure throughout the component, it will show a uniform as well as accurate readings. It is not subjected to problems such as gear wears, temperature variations, etc. So the gear wear, so as the magnification depends upon the rack and pinions as well as gear and pinion mechanisms. So during this operation, the gear wear is very less, and due to the temperature variation also, the deflections will not vary. Next, it is best suited in mass production. So for comparing a large number of components, it is very easy. So instead of measuring the components, comparing the components is very easy. So hence this process can be used for mass production. So it is best suited in mass production for precise dimensional control, for obtaining correct dimension for a mass components, n number of components. Then it is the best suitable way instead of measuring each and every component. It can detect small dimensional variations also. It can detect small dimensional variations. Next, the instrument is accurate and economical. So the instrument is very small. So due to this, the readings are also very accurate. The moving parts are very less. So the construction is also very simple. Due to that, the readings are very accurate. Next, easy and rapidly used for different types of precision measurements. Example, roundness, flatness, taper, etc. We already discussed that the various forms, it means various shapes can be identified like roundness, circularity, ovality, etc. So next, portable and easy to handle. The device is very small, so it can be easily handled and it can be mobile from one place to another place. Next, by intelligent use, large and costly instruments can be avoided. Large and costly instruments can be avoided. As we know that the micrometers and vernier calipers are for linear measurements. So if we are intelligently, with some proper knowledge, if we use this dial indicator in a proper way, we can avoid those micrometers, dial indicator or similar instruments. So by means of dial indicator only, we can do those operations. So it eliminates the uncertain human ability to feel or judge. So these dial indicators can also be used for obtaining the surface finish also, as well as. So now we are using this we are using this dial indicator for linear measurement. So here we are comparing or we are measuring this dimension. So here after a certain time, if this component weighs, human is not able to detect that the wear, because the minute wear only takes place. Those variations cannot be identified by a human. Human is not able to identify that. Those can be easily identified by means of this dial indicators. Measuring pressure is always constant. Next, classifications of dial indicators. So based upon the pointer movement, those are classified into two types. That is circular as well as sector. If the pointer or needle moves through the circle, it means for 360 degrees rotation, 360 degrees, then that comes under circular type of dial indicators. Whereas if the movement of the needle is only a limited angle, then that comes under sector type of dial indicators. Again, the circular type is are of two types, that is plunger mechanism as well as dial micrometers, and this sector works on lever mechanisms. So now the main parts of dial indicator. So dial indicator consists of a scale. So a scale mark plate. So it consists of a glass shield on which a scale is marked. A graduated scale is placed on a crystal glass. So next, so this on the main one is gauging head. So here by means of this gauging head is only in contact with our component. So by means of this contact, so here by means of this gauging head, we are keeping our component in contact with dial indicator. So the gauge head, the movement from the gauge head is transferred to the spindle. The gauge head is connected to the spindle, and the movement, the motion, the linear movement is transferred from gauge head to the spindle, and then that is to the right hand pinion, that we will discuss in the earlier slides. So this gauge head is connected to the spindle. So this spindle is mounted by means of a stem. So it's a housing for the spindle. So next, this consists of two needles, that is long pointer and short pointer. So for one complete 360 degrees rotation of long pointer gives rise to one movement of short pointer. So short pointer is used to identify the number of complete rotations. So after one complete rotation, this short pointer will move. So by means of this short pointer, we can identify the number of completed long needle rotations. So next, so it consists of a graduated plate, that is on the scale. So it consists of an outer frame. So this scale can be rotated. So depends upon the application, the needle can be adjusted to 0. So if by applying light pressure, the needle will show some deflection. The deflection can be maintained as 0 by tilting the dial scale. So this scale mark or graduated plate that can be tilted so that the point reading can be noted as 0. And again it consists of two limiters. So the two limiters are maximum and minimum limits. So in the first slide, in first unit we discussed about the tolerances, the maximum and minimum limits. So here also for acceptable range, the maximum and minimum, to identify the maximum and minimum is having limiters. These limiters can be optional, can be used or cannot be used. For easy comparison, we are using limiters. So if the pointer is beyond the limiter, then it is rejected. Or if it is in between these limiters, then the component is accepted. For easy identification of accepting and rejecting, these limiters are used. So next, it consists of a cap. So the spindle can be moved up and down. The movement can be held by means of this cap. So it means it's a spindle path. So if the spindle is moved furthermore, it is a cap for avoiding the accidental damage to the dial indicator. So these are the various components of dial indicators. So the main parts are dial with the main scale. The next one, indicator. Indicator is none other than the needle. The next one is the plunger. So a plunger, this is one. That is also called as spindle. Next, mini dial. So this one is our mini dial. Locking screw. So this is locking screw. As we discussed that this frame can be tilted. The tilted scale can be locked at any position. Next, magnification mechanism. That we will discuss in the next one. So this one is for magnification mechanism. So working principle of lever mechanism. Working principle of lever mechanism in dial indicator. So here it consists of a needle, that is ABC. Here ABC is a needle and the needle is pivoted at a point B. At point B the needle is pivoted. So and point C is indicating the reading on the scale. So here this one is our plunger. So depends upon the height of our component, the plunger can move up and down. So if the plunger moves up, it pushes the point, the location, it pushes the needle at location A. If the location A moves up, and the needle is pivoted at the point B, so the deflection C is shown here. So here, if we observe that the length from A to B is not equal to B to C. If the length from A to B is 1 unit, then B to C is 2 units. So here, if the movement of A is 1 mm, the deflection shown at point C is 2 mm. Why? Because the length is not same in both the direction. If the length is same, if the length from A to B and B to C are equal, then if here 1 mm movement is shown as 1 mm movement only. So here the length is varied. So due to that, the magnification takes place. So here 1 mm movement can be shown in 2 mm. So that is, the value is magnifying, and we can, by means of this magnification, we can clearly identify the variation. So simple mechanism. The plunger and the indicator are connected by levers as shown in figure. So this is the plunger and those levers are, and this is the lever. The plunger is connected to the lever and the lever is pivoted at a point B. In simple type lever mechanism, the indicator is connected by a single lever A to C. AC is a lever, is connected and pivoted at a point B. So here it is pivoted B. So here, by means of this, the magnification is BC by AB. So the magnification from here to here, that is BC by AB. Here, by means of simple lever mechanism, we are magnifying the readings. The next, compound lever. So by means of this compound lever, we can get more magnification. So we can get more magnification than simple mechanism. So it's a combination of two simple mechanisms. So here the simple mechanism. So first lever A to C and the second lever C to E. So first lever A to C, if the plunger moves up at the location A, the needle will move up, so that the reading, the C will move down. So the same length, here lengths are varying 1:2, 1:2. Suppose. So here the magnification is BC by AB. So here 1 mm of movement leads to 2 mm of deflection. So again the same mechanism. Here 2 mm of deflection, that gives rise to 4 mm of deflection. So from here to here it is magnifying, and from here to here again it's magnifying. By means of compound lever mechanism, we are magnifying the readings. For higher magnification, a compound lever system is used. For higher magnification, if the deflection is very small, we need to identify that deflection also. Then we will go for compound lever mechanism dial indicators. For higher magnification, a compound lever system is used. In the compound lever mechanism, there are multiple levers. So here we use 2 levers, that is lever 1 and lever 2. So there are multiple levers connected. So the structure is difficult to construct. Because of the fork joints. So this is the fork joint. Because of this fork joint, the construction is difficult. So due to that, if the requirement is very high, higher magnification is required, then only we will go for compound lever. Why? Because the pivot, the fork joints is difficult. So here the magnification, that is BC by AB into ED by AC. So from here to here the magnification is BC to AB. From here to here the magnification, that is ED by CD. The multiplication of these two is our final magnification. The result is BC by AB and ED by AC. Sorry. And next one, ED by CD. This is DC. ED by DC. This is our final magnification. So if the required magnification is small, then we will go for simple lever mechanism. If the required magnification is high, then we will go for compound lever magnification. Next, working principle of gear and pinion mechanism. So this is the gear and pinion mechanism. So initially in both the cases the plunger is moving. the movement is identified by means of a plunger. So here, so the plunger, this is our plunger. If the component is having some thickness or dimension, the plunger will move up. So here the plunger is connected to a rack. So on the top of the plunger, a rack is placed and this rack is connected to a pinion P1. This rack is connected to pinion P1. So if the rack moves up, then this pinion will rotate. And this pinion is in compound with a gear G1. So both pinion and gear are compound gears. Those two are connected at a single point. So if the pinion moves, automatically the gear G1 moves. So if the gear G1 moves, it moves the pinion P2. So the gear G1 and pinion P2 are in mesh together. So that if gear P1 moves and if gear G1 moves, automatically the pinion P2 moves. It means rotates. If here G2 and P2 are compound gears. If pinion G2 and P2 are compound gears. If P2 rotates, automatically the Z2 will rotate. And this G2 is connected to pinion P3. So this pinion P3 is connected to our needle. So our deflection will be shown by means of this pinion P3. And again this pinion P3 is connected to a gear G3 in which hairspring is connected. So the point is connected to our pinion. If the pinion rotates, it moves the gear G3 also. The gear G3 is connected to hairspring. So here this hairspring is to initiate or to backslash our needle to 0 position. So after the withdrawal of our component, the gears will move backward. At this time, the needle should go to 0. So to make it to 0, we are using a hairspring. The plunger will be the one which is moving linearly. So here the plunger will be the one which is moving linearly. So the plunger is used to move up and down direction. Will separate to the change in one of the workpiece while taking measurements. While taking measurements, the plunger will move up and down. So the plunger will consist of a rack and it is meshes with a pinion P1. Consists of a rack and it is meshes with pinion P1. The rack is meshing with a pinion P1 on the gear G1. This G1 will mesh with the series pinions and gears to multiply the movement to increase the accuracy of measurements. To increase the accuracy of measurements, for magnification, we connected number of gears and pinions. Next, the final pinion P3 is connected to the indicator. So this is our P3. This P3 is connected to needle. The final P3 is connected to the indicator needle. This indicator will show the deflection on the main scale. So on the dial gauge, on the graduated scale, this needle gives a deflection. Hairspring is provided at the gear to control the movement of plunger to regain its original position. So by means of this hairspring, we are regaining the needle position to 0, to its original position. Here the magnification is Ng2 by Np3 and into Ng1 by Np2. Where here N means number of teeth on gear G2. So G2. So here Ng2 stands for number of teeth on gear G2. Np2 number of teeth on second gear, number of teeth on third pinion, number of teeth on first gear, number of teeth on pinion 2. So these are the number of teeth. N stands for number of teeth on various gears and pinions. Next, disadvantages of dial indicators. So as we know that the gears, due to the movement, the wear of the gear takes place. So the wear of the plunger bearing surfaces. So this is the plunger. So the wear. So this the plunger is in contact with our component. So the plunger of the wear bearing surfaces, gears, etc. cause an error in the measurements. Cause an errors. So if our plunger wears, the dimension of the plunger reduces, so that it gives wrong results. Similarly, if the inside gears are also worn out, then it leads to the errors in the measurements. The accuracy of the instruments is reduced due to lack of backslash in gears and pinion. So here, if the component is removed, the plunger movement moves down, so that the needle should come to the zero. But due to the movement, the restrictions of movement in pinion and gears, those backslash, the needle is not going to zero. Next, as plunger moves inside, here the plunger is moving inside, the contact pressure is inside, contact pressure increases, which increases the errors in the measurement. Due to increase in the pressure, the errors will arise. So these are the various gauging heads. So in the earlier cases we discussed about the gauging head. So the gauging head is the main component which is in contact with our workpiece. So here depends upon the profile to be measured. We are having various types of gauge heads. So if the profile is very narrow, it means irregular shape, we need to identify this one, then we will go for this type of pointers. So depends upon the profile of our component, we will go for different heads. So these are all based upon the application where we are going to use these dial indicators. So these are the various types of dial indicators and those dial gauge heads. Okay, thank you.